right. All right. Let me know when you're ready to go.
We're recording.
We're recording. Okay. Well, I have the pleasure of being able to interview Tarquin Gaines as he starts this new journey with the Next Wave podcast, and I'm just lucky enough to be able to kind of be your first interview. So let's get into it. Next Wave. What is Next Wave?
And the symbolism behind the name of Next Wave, it kind of started with me identifying some of the challenges. Well, there's a lot of common challenges that me and my friends went through as we were growing up. And as I started working with children and families in San Francisco, I noticed that families are still facing the same challenges, and a lot of the young people that I'm working with are second or third generation San Franciscans and participants of the public school system. So for me, it wasn't a new set of problems that people are facing. It was just the next wave of young people and families entering those spaces.
One thing, I know you've discussed is a lot about like male empowerment. And that is something is that, depending on the context you're hearing it, could be kind of, different definitions of it. But what is male empowerment to you, and why is that? Yeah. So why are you deciding to talk about male empowerment, and what do you hope to get out of it?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I think people hear male empowerment and they think like degradation of female counterparts, and it certainly isn't that. You don't have to step on anyone to make yourself more visible. Male empowerment for me is developing skills, confidence, and resources for growth. And I think that when young men don't have those competencies, life becomes really difficult to navigate. I've worked with a lot of young men who are facing mental health issues, social isolation, and I think the default sometimes is to kind of go through whatever you're going through and riding that out by yourself. And I really want to create an online forum to where you don't have to write that out by yourself. You can reach out, you can ask for help. We can talk about challenges, successes, and collaborations. And when I've held these conversations, I start to understand like many of us are all living the same life. A lot of these challenges are the same. And I recognize my ability to influence behaviors. And I want to make sure that those behaviors are positive. I recognize my ability to have a profound impact on the communities that I'm a part of. And I really want to get, a specific message across. Sometimes we fall apart and we have to be able to piece ourselves back, right? Sometimes we get knocked off, right? And we got to get back on our feet. And I think that is really important. You can reinforce that by encouraging hard work. I think having a growth mindset and being committed to putting in the work instead of just sitting around and hoping that those positive outcomes just come to you, right? And then again, like I said, developing skills that you can leverage.
Yeah.
I think too many young people are in spaces where they commit to getting it in the streets. I'm gonna get it in this kind of way. I don't have it, so I'm gonna take yours. And there's in a city like San Francisco, I think we have a ton of people who are really wealthy and can acquire resources, and that middle class is being stretched out, especially towards the top. And you have a lot of people who are not able to turn that corner and make that transition from adolescence to adulthood in a healthy manner. And while I recognize that times are troubling, continue to invest in yourself. Continue to be your top priority, right? And try to make yourself as well-rounded as possible, And I think a lot of the content on this platform is just that. My goal is to be able to hit different competencies on this platform, right? There are certain community may need to, hear other people talk about social dynamics, right? And presenting yourself in a certain way. And so, we're just here trying to have as much fun with it as possible and really get to a real place.
Okay. I like that. It sounds like a lot of the things you wanted to discuss, you talked a lot, it kind of relate to you, right? And how does all this relate to your upbringing and your your childhood and whatnot?
Born and raised in San Francisco, the Fillmore district, Fillmo as we like to call it. And it's not an easy place to survive. I think, you have to kind of wear this exterior to survive. You kind of have to know your surroundings a little bit more and be aware of the potential dangers, which are constant. And, as I became an adult and I'm working with more inner city young people that come from my community, I can see that I more so got lucky. Yeah. It comes down to birth lottery. I was born in a 2-parent household, right? We were very religiously sound, right? And, I think me being in those spaces, being in that community has developed my moral compass. Don't get me wrong, we had our challenges. We were raised humbly, if you will. And I also got really lucky because I had a lot of people around me outside of my family who invested in me, and I think about my senior year of high school, which is probably one of the most tumultuous years of my life. I had a lot of people around me who helped me reclaim my life. You know what I mean? I understand what it's like to be 1 foot in the streets and 1 foot out the streets, right? Out of necessity. And, I learned a lot of lessons along the way, and I want to impart that knowledge on my target audience.
Okay. So you spoke a lot about Next Wave and what it is. Define it for us. What's your vision for this podcast? Where do you see this going eventually?
My vision is to empower listeners to embrace challenges and invest in themselves, continue to push forward, and really promoting resiliency. People are checked out and they lean into whatever it is they lean into when they don't have a community to lean into, right? And, one of the things that I really want my target audience to establish is enjoying the passage of time. Because, I think that's what life is about. And if you can't enjoy the passage of time, what are we doing here?
No. I mean, it sounds like, what this platform can be for a lot of young men is, it could be somewhat like a mentorship.
Yeah.
Right? Like because it sounds like you're going to not only just be you, but other people in the community coming on, other men in the community coming on the podcast. What role did mentorship play in your life, and why do you feel like it's so important for a lot of young men to have that? Because I think you and I would agree that a lot of young men don't have that. Really.
Yeah, I think mentorship, proper mentorship, is essential, and I think when you're growing up, especially in this part of town, let's say like San Francisco, I don't think your parents or your parent or your caregivers can fill in all the gaps. And I think about some of the people who've helped me reclaim my life and help me, start anew is, we're coaches, we're after school instructors. Even some of my peers kind of served a mentorship role for me. And I think with proper mentorship, you're able to pick up things that may not necessarily be implemented in your household. It gives you a different perspective in life, right? And I think good mentorship has honestly, one, changed my relationship with discipline, and it has led me to believe that I'm a part of a system that's bigger than myself. And I think proper mentorship with young men is essential, and typically it's mutually beneficial. I'm kind of forced to doing things the right way. How can I tell my target audience to look at what's happening on this platform, and I'm out doing whatever whatever I want to do. So, yeah, mentorship is key.
Yeah. All right. No, that sounds great. So one thing, Tarquin, I know about you is that your journey through education is a unique one. That's not in a bad way, but you've had a unique journey through education. Explain your journey through education and why you feel like education is so important. Even it's not like the more formal thing, like in the classroom, because you, like I said, you've had different experiences. So, why do you think education is important, and why do you feel like, this is something that will be talked about on the channel, like in terms of like how to further education?
Well, my education was unique. My educational journey. I think because of my religious background, I've always been pretty academically inclined. I did not always have the home life that fostered academic success, but I've always had a good relationship with learning. Being a lifelong learner is something that I would encourage all people to kind of develop. And I think no matter what you get into, what space you get into, what pathway you choose, you're going to need to educate yourself. And education doesn't always look like sitting in a college classroom, right? If you want to contribute via trades, there's trade school, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to learn how to be an entrepreneur. You have to learn those skills. And I actually took 8 years off of school after high school. I just knew that it wasn't my time to go back. And when I did, I found that a lot of the life experiences that I had, the education that came from life experiences, helped foster success in college classrooms. Because a lot of my target audience has not had positive relationships and experiences with the education system. I would encourage everybody to really focus on changing your relationship with the education system and make your education your own. Because I know that without it, whatever it is that you want to do, you may hit your ceiling, right? If you don't have that piece of paper, it might not really work out for you. Plus, show up as a professional. How can you be a professional if you haven't educated yourself in some sense? So definitely important. I encourage everybody to make their education their own and figure out ways that they can be successful.
One thing you said is that you learned a lot of lessons along the way. What lessons from your journey do you think resonate with your listeners?
One of the things that I've developed is practicing perspective. A lot of us, many of us, most of us, we may not be where we want to be in life. Instead of looking at where you need to be, turn around and look at the footsteps that you've taken. Mm-hmm. Look at the path that you've created.
It's a balance.
Right? It's a balance thing, right? So you say you put your head down and you work and you look up, man, I'm still so far away from my goals. You put your head down, you look up. It's like, man, I have so much work to do to get to where I want to be. Turn around and look at wow, look at what I've done. Look at what I've created. Yeah. And practicing perspective is something that's really helped me launch this platform, especially when it comes down to collaborating with people from the communities, right? Yeah. There are certain things that I've done, like student government at City College, right? I was appointed as a senator, elected as student vice chancellor, and then appointed as the Region 3 delegate for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, or SFSU. And, for a while, I was like, what am I doing here? This isn't getting me anything. It's not, but today I realized that practicing advocacy at that level has definitely blazed a trail for what I want to do now, right? And it's naturalized all these efforts. Most days I don't feel like I'm really working hard. It doesn't feel like work. It's definitely rewarding. It feels natural.
Well, man, for one, man, I think this is an excellent podcast. I think a lot of people are going to really find a lot of value out of this. I think a lot of young men in particular are going to be able to watch these episodes and get a lot out of it. It's something that we didn't have growing up as kids. Like you said, we both came from two-parent households. We both lucky around to have people around, but something like this even better. So I'm just excited for what's to come for you, man. I think it's going to be a great channel. Is there anything else you want to close out with? Anything you want to say before we end this interview?
It's to my parents. thank you for raising us.
Yeah. Beautiful way to end it. Beautiful message to everybody. And yeah, we off. We done.
All right, thank you.
Get it. Anything else?
Shit, that might just be it.
You got a lot of good content, my man.
I know we have a lot of good content. We're going to end it right there.